Every August, thousands of freshmen arrive on elite college campuses, believing they are all beginning the same journey. New dorms, new professors, new friendships, new lives. Nobody knows where they're going. Nobody knows how the university really works. Nobody knows which traditions matter and which are just stories passed down by older students. That uncertainty is part of the experience. At least, that's how it's supposed to work. But during the fall semester of 2023, students at Blackwood University became fixated on one freshman who didn't seem new at all. According to dozens of accounts later shared online, he knew too much. Not in the way exceptionally smart students know things, not in the way legacy students know things. He seemed to know Blackwood the way someone remembers a place they had already lived in for years. The story would eventually become one of the most discussed mysteries connected to the university's growing mythology. And according to several former students, it began only days after the events surrounding what later became known as the Blackwood invitation list. At first, nobody noticed him. That is one of the strangest parts of the story. The student wasn't charismatic. He wasn't popular. He wasn't controversial. In fact, many people later described him as forgettable. His name was Daniel. He lived in freshman housing, attended orientation events, showed up to classes. Nothing appeared unusual. Then small things started happening. The first reports came from students living in the same residence hall. Freshmen would become lost trying to find classrooms or orientation events. Before anyone could pull out a campus map, Daniel would quietly point them in the right direction. At first, nobody thought much about it. Then students realized something odd. He never checked directions, ever. He didn't hesitate. He didn't guess. He simply knew the quickest path, the less crowded path. The route through buildings most freshmen didn't even know existed. Still, most people assumed he'd visited campus before. Then another incident occurred. One evening, several freshmen became locked out of an academic building after arriving late for an orientation event. The main doors were secured. The event had already started. Before anyone could decide what to do, Daniel allegedly led the group through a maze of connected hallways, loading areas, and service corridors. Within minutes, they entered the building through a maintenance entrance. One student later asked him how he knew the route. According to multiple accounts, Daniel reportedly laughed and said, "I use that entrance all the time." At first, nobody reacted. Then someone pointed out the obvious. Classes hadn't even started yet. He couldn't have used it all the time. But similar moments continued occurring. Students later claimed Daniel knew which stairwells connected between buildings, which classrooms used to exist before renovations, which doors remained unlocked after midnight, which maintenance tunnels connected older campus structures. Some of this information wasn't publicly available, yet he seemed completely familiar with it. Then came the archive incident. Several freshmen had become interested in the growing mystery surrounding Blackwood after hearing rumors connected to the invitation list. One afternoon, they visited the university archives, hoping to research old student organizations. Daniel came along. At first, everything felt normal. Yearbooks, newspapers, photographs, university records. A student opened a yearbook from the 1970s. Before anyone read the caption, Daniel reportedly identified 2 students by name. Everyone assumed he was joking. Then they checked. The names matched perfectly. At first, they thought it was luck. Then another photograph appeared, different year, different students. Again, Daniel identified people before reading the captions. The archivist overseeing the room allegedly noticed the interaction. When asked how he knew the names, Daniel reportedly answered, "I've seen them before." The answer made no sense. Still, the incident would have been forgotten had it not been for what happened next. A student researching older campus photographs reportedly discovered something strange. Inside a freshman orientation photograph from 1971, a student stood near the edge of the frame. The resemblance to Daniel was remarkable. At first, everyone dismissed it. People resemble one another, especially in old photographs. Then another image surfaced, 1986, again the same face. Then another, 1998, then 2011. then 2018. Different decades, different groups of freshmen, yet according to students comparing the images, the resemblance became increasingly difficult to ignore. The photographs spread privately among students. Most assumed it was coincidence. Others became fascinated. Then the mystery deepened. One student working in university administration allegedly attempted locating Daniel's admissions records. Everything initially appeared legitimate. Student identification, housing assignment, course registration, financial records. But according to second-hand accounts later shared online, several sections of the admissions file appeared incomplete. There were no interview notes, no recommendation letters, no admissions essays, no supporting documentation. Just an acceptance record. At first, the student assumed portions of the file remained restricted. Then an administrator reportedly informed them that nothing was missing. The file simply contained very little information. That explanation raised more questions than answers. The investigation intensified. Over the following weeks, students began documenting strange interactions. One sophomore claimed Daniel correctly identified a professor's former office, despite the room having been reassigned years earlier. A resident advisor allegedly reported hearing Daniel reference an orientation tradition that had ended before he was born. A maintenance worker reportedly became visibly uncomfortable after Daniel accurately described portions of an abandoned utility corridor beneath campus. According to the account, the worker asked how he knew about the tunnel. Daniel allegedly responded, "It used to be easier to get through there." The worker reportedly asked, "When?" Daniel simply smiled. The most significant development occurred during October. A history professor presented a lecture covering the university's early expansion. During the presentation, several photographs appeared on a projector screen. One image dated back to the 1930s, students standing outside Hawthorne Hall. The same Hawthorne Hall connected to the mystery of the vacant dormitory wing. Before the professor could begin discussing the photograph, Daniel allegedly identified two students standing near the entrance. Not famous people, not administrators, ordinary students. The professor stopped speaking. According to multiple witnesses, he asked Daniel how he knew their names. Daniel answered, they lived in the East Wing. The professor later confirmed the names were correct. The names did not appear anywhere on the screen. After class ended, the professor allegedly contacted the archives. The following day, several photographs connected to the lecture reportedly became unavailable for student access. Then came the security footage. According to one anonymous account later shared online, a student employee working in campus security became interested in the mystery. The employee allegedly reviewed footage connected to several incidents involving Daniel. The footage repeatedly showed Daniel entering buildings before receiving official access permissions, not breaking in, not forcing doors, simply appearing in places where access records suggested he shouldn't have been. Then another pattern emerged. Daniel frequently appeared near locations connected to earlier Blackwood mysteries, the archives, Hawthorne Hall, buildings associated with the invitation list. It was as if he was following the investigation itself. Near the end of the semester, Daniel disappeared, not dramatically, not mysteriously. He simply stopped showing up. Classes, dorms, dining halls gone. At first, everyone assumed he had withdrawn from the university. Then students attempted contacting him. His email no longer existed. His directory listing disappeared. His student profile became inaccessible. Several weeks later, administration confirmed only one thing. Daniel was no longer enrolled. No further information was provided. Most people moved on. The semester ended. Winter break arrived. The mystery faded. Until the following August, during freshman orientation, a student photographing move in activities reportedly captured an image near the edge of the crowd. Standing among incoming freshmen was someone who looked exactly like Daniel. The photograph spread quickly. At first, everyone assumed it was another coincidence. Then students began comparing the image to earlier orientation photographs. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. One former student later summarized the mystery in a way that still circulates among alumni discussions. The unsettling part wasn't that Daniel seemed familiar with Blackwood. The unsettling part was that Blackwood seemed familiar with him. Today, new freshmen continue arriving at universities every year believing they are starting from scratch, a new chapter, a new beginning. But according to the story surrounding the freshman who was already there, some students may arrive on campus carrying memories they should not possess. And according to those who spent years trying to understand Daniel's identity, the most disturbing possibility was never that he knew too much about Blackwood University. It was that he wasn't learning anything at all, he was remembering. Because if the photographs are genuine, and if the witnesses were telling the truth, then Daniel may not have been a freshman entering Blackwood for the first time. He may have been returning,